Okay, so my biggest beauty bugbear out of absolutely everything ever is dark circles. I have tried everything, eye creams, every serums, oils, all the lotions and potions, and the hard truth is that none of them really work. So the next best thing is concealing them properly and making sure that you can't see them. Fake it till you make it, right?
This is everything you're going to need to cover up your dark circles.
So the hero product for this, if you have olive skin or dark skin, is a red lipstick. I'm not talking about any red lipstick. It needs to be orange undertoned, it needs to be matte, and it needs to be very bright like this. Don't go using a dark red lipstick or a plum colour. Absolutely worst idea ever. The whole premise behind this is colour correcting. So I'm sure you've heard about colour correcting, and what this means is you want to balance out obviously the purple blue undertones in the dark shadows under your eyes. So how it works is colours opposite a specific colour on a colour wheel balance out, and so when you put red or peach or like a salmony colour, so if you're pale skin you want to go for like a baby pink or like a lighter salmon, and obviously the darker skin tone, the brighter the colour. So you could go for orange. I used to use orange, but now I just use red. I'll use orange during the day if I don't really have time, because the lipstick takes quite a while, but red lipstick is like the best. It completely cancels it out. So the first thing that I do is take a bit of the red lipstick and put it onto a brush. And then carefully start putting it into the areas where there's dark shadows. Do not go really overboard with this because it will not look good. I'm aware that it looks insane already, but trust me, the outcome is pretty good. With this, so what I was saying earlier about skin tones, if you're really pale, do not use this red lipstick. Like, don't even try, because it won't work and it will probably end up making you look like you've been punched in the face. If you're pale, you need to substitute red for one of these kind of colours, like a pale pink or a salmon kind of shade. The red will just be way too dark and it will not help. It will just make it look worse. I'm going to put a tiny bit more just in here where the shadow's the worst. Okay, just blend out the edges with your finger so there's not such a harsh line there, here. Step 2, not sure why I'm saying steps, but there we are. So the next thing I do is go in with a yellow colour to counteract the bright red under my eyes. I've actually got 2 shades here that I like to mix. One's just slightly darker than the other. I'm going to go in first with the lighter shade and press under my eyes like this. And this just helps. When you think about it, logically, yellow and red makes orange. So you could just use orange. For some reason, I always do this. I think it's just the thing that my habit that I do. So I like to mix the 2 together. So I'm going to take this beauty blender and start blending. The important thing about this is make sure, the reason I'm using a beauty blender and not anything else, you have to like press and pat each layer down on top of the other. If you at any point try and rub any of the colours, any of the concealer, it's like putting your nails through fresh paint. You're just going to scrape away all of the layers and you'll be back to square one. So always press and pat instead of rubbing. You should do that anyway under your eyes because the skin's really delicate. So now with the darker yellow, I'm just going to go into the areas that I can still see quite a bit of red. So the bits just around here. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. It might seem, I mean, we're not even at the halfway point. It might seem like if you're sitting there thinking this is really long-winded, surely this girl has got far too much time on her hands to be doing this every day. I do not do this every day. I do this if I'm going out or if obviously I want to look good for like a special occasion. Day in, day out, I usually just put concealer on normally and accept defeat. But obviously I'm going to show you because it does take quite a while. So the next thing I'm going to do is take a concealer that's 1 or 2 shades lighter than my actual skin tone. And this is just going to brighten up the area because it is a bit dark now. We've put quite a lot of orange on. So with this, only put the concealer that's a few shades lighter, only put it in the darkest areas again, because you don't want to have like a ghostly white shadow under your eyes. Okay, just pat that in with your finger. Another thing that I haven't actually done in this video, but that's really helpful and worth mentioning, is always put an eye cream on before you do this, specifically one that's anti-wrinkle or line filling or anything like that will work a charm, because obviously under your eyes here you've got little creases, and what happens is when you're applying like 5 layers of concealer like I am, it starts to kind of get caught in the creases, which is obviously really, really annoying. So try and keep, obviously you can't help it when you're doing the red lipstick and the other yellow concealer, because you want to cover all of it. But when you're putting on these layers, so this one that I've just done, and then my final layer of concealer, try and keep it lower rather than higher, because the more that you pile on under here, it's going to get caught in there. And then after 20 minutes, you'll have these like lines of concealer, and it's really annoying. So I've learned that the hard way, because my mum will always be like, oh, you've got foundation like right under your eyes. Yes, mum, thank you for letting me know. The last thing I'm going to use is a really heavy wearing thick concealer. I have tried honestly every concealer out there. I'm concealer obsessed. I have a whole makeup bag full of concealers, and this is just every single time and time again, I have not found one that's better. So make sure you're choosing one that is really thick. Don't be scared that it's thick, because at the end of the day, if you've got bad dark circles, you need a thick one to cover them. And again, try and go for one that's got a slight like peach undertone. So with this, I'm going to pat it in under my eye. Just remember what I said about trying to keep it low, because the thicker the concealer, the more likely it is going to congeal in those areas, and it's just going to be a bit of a mess. So put it into the dark area like that. Something else which I forgot to mention is you want to put concealer on the inner corners of your eyes here. A lot of the time you only focus on this area, and I always used to just focus on this area, but actually when you've got like dark areas and dark circles around your eyes, it is often here that you just completely don't forget about, and that's what will really kind of brighten your eyes and make them look more awake. So always just dot a bit of concealer either side here. It really, really helps, because you don't even think about that, but it is definitely something that you should do. I did my eyeshadow earlier, if you're wondering why I have eyeshadow on and not much else on my face. So you wouldn't normally do this on top of your eyeshadow, but for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna ignore that. Okay. Right, so now I'm just gonna blend that in. To stop the creases, there's 2 things that you can do. Number 1, definitely always set your concealer with a powder, not just for the creases, but right now everything probably looks great, but in about 3 hours, all of this will be off my face. So always, always, always set your concealer with a powder, because it will stay. I have woken up the next morning when I forgot to take my makeup off, and I've like completely dark circle free. It's the number 1 way to make sure that it stays on. I'm not even a fan of powder. Like, I won't put it over the rest of my face because I don't like that matte finish, but always put it on top of your concealer to set it, always, always. And it will help with the creasing as well. So now I'm just basically going along under my lash line with my little finger, and this will just pick up the excess that would have gone into the crease, because if you try and smudge it with your beauty blender, you're just going to drag all the rest of it off, so just be careful. So powder, use a translucent powder. You don't have to use a translucent powder, but I always use a translucent powder just because I've found with yellow or skin tone powders that they tend to make that area look darker, even on top of your concealer and everything else. Just patting out this powder, sorry. So if you use a white one, it's not going to darken it, it's just going to make it look brighter. So go for a white. You don't need too much. We're not baking here, we're not doing that whole thing. That's another video. But it's just to make sure that that's now not going to go anywhere. And yep, that is basically it. Normally I would, if I was putting foundation on, obviously remember to put your foundation on before you put your powder on. So if I was doing my whole face, I would, before putting on my powder, get my foundation, put it all over my face as usual, and then just put a little bit on your hand, get your beauty blender, press it in, not too much, and then just go on top of that concealer like that, and it will just make sure you don't have a difference in the foundation and the concealer, like a tiny bit, just pat it in. Then you can go on with your powder and then obviously carry on with like your bronzer and everything else. But yeah, just for the time being, that is it. So if you want to try and fake 8 hours sleep when you've only had 4, give it a go. Remember what I said, if you have pale skin, please, please don't use red lipstick, because I know what's going to happen. You're all going to leave comments like, I look crazy. That's not what you should do. Use a paler pink one or a salmon coloured one. For everyone else, obviously give the red lipstick a go. I know it looks weird. The first time I did it, I thought it was really weird, but it definitely works. Take a photo. In fact, take a photo before you've blended it with your just your red lipstick, because that would be hilarious, and I would quite like to see that. And hashtag Beauty Advisor. We've got loads of tutorials going on this week every day, so check out some of our other ones. We've got some hair ones in there too. And as always, leave comments. Any feedback is much appreciated. And if you've got any cool ideas for videos you want us to do in the future, please tell us and we will get to it.